Good evening, everyone. Thanks for coming by tonight. We're going to talk about some exciting stuff tonight. Want to go back a little bit and talk about why we're discussing all these diagnoses. Mostly, I am concerned with a diagnosis because it will help us to determine what type of therapy we're going to be looking at later. And next week, I think we'll be talking about therapy, if we get through everything tonight. And the diagnosis is a place to start that will help you determine where you go. But I always also look for what are the problems that person's having with their life. I mean, what is happening inside them and what is going on with their life, boom, you know? And thesis is right. Welcome to my nightmare. Tonight we're talking about psychoses. Before we do, though, I want to step back again to look at the personality disorders and other disorders, because you'll find that a lot of times the diagnosis is based on the length of time that something goes on. So something like OCD, okay, obsessive compulsive. A person can have something that is a short-term obsessive compulsive disorder that they can work through fairly easily, and it doesn't affect all of their life. Whereas if they have an obsessive compulsive personality disorder, that will, boil down to all portions of their life. So it might not only affect them one way, but more than one way. And that's going to make working on that therapy a little harder to do. There's a couple things within that are going to make a difference coming up to psychoses as well. Okay? A person whose problem is egocentric is something that they don't maybe realize they have. This is fine, I am fine. As the fire burns around them, they feel like, oh yeah, I'm good, everything's fine. An ego dystonic issue is when you look at your life and you go, I don't like being like this. Okay, I would like to do something about it. Okay? So those will come up again in psychoses, but they are very important in the personality disorders too. Okay? So I wanted to step back and mention that because we need to know that for this next part. Something like my own story of the obsessive compulsive personality that I have, I was uncomfortable with parts of it. So I was like, okay, I've got to fix these. And I was able to work on those and fix those issues. Not only just by myself, but with the help of others, friends and such. And now I am at the point where I still have obsessive compulsive things, but those are okay. I can live with those. Those are more egocentric now. They might help me organize my life a little better. But those parts that were not making me comfortable, I've had to get rid of those. So that's what we want to do, is make the person more comfortable with their life and being able to get along. Hi, new people that have just come in. Hi, Dawn. Okay, so psychoses. We're going to look at two different types of psychoses. One is functional. That is just purely coming from a mental health background, something that has occurred in someone's life, possibly due to trauma, but psychological trauma. Okay. The other is organic psychoses. Those are ones that come from blunt force trauma, maybe if someone's had a head injury or something, or it has come from ingesting a material, drugs or alcohol, or it might be something we don't even know about yet. And, those we're still working on. Scientists are still working on what causes some of these particular issues. Some of them we actually know are caused by organic ailments, but we still haven't figured out how to get over some of them. So we'll talk about some of those, and we'll go into detail. Trey makes a good point. Sometimes you don't even realize how uncomfortable you are until you make things better. This is true. Sometimes someone was talking about a narcissistic personality they had to deal with, and I basically told them, if a person has a personality problem, okay, or any other problem, and they might be egocentric with it. They might like, this is fine, this is me, this is how I am, take it or leave it. If multiple people point out to you that something's wrong and you still do nothing, then it's your fault. I mean, okay, most of the things that these folks have is not their fault, okay? They may act out in certain ways. That is, if they hurt somebody, that's their fault, yes. But the problem itself is not their fault. If, however, it's pointed out to you and you don't seek treatment for it, then it is your fault. Okay? I mean, because treatments are available for most things now. So that's something I wanted to point out today. Am I okay on the microphone? I think I'm maybe too loud, but let me know. Okay. How do I know if I'm seeing psychotic behavior? Truly psychotic behavior is when a person can't tell between the real world and what's going on inside their head. Okay? Oh, good. Thank you. Great. I'm glad to hear the volume's great. When a person has trouble and they have a break with reality, that is a psychotic behavior. Okay? Okay. They may hold delusions. Now, delusions are false beliefs that a person has. This is where it gets tricky. Because not all false beliefs might be called a delusion. It depends on the time in history, culture, what influences are out there that determine that. I mean, is thinking the earth is flat a delusion? Yeah, to some it might be. I mean, say that's delusional. For others, they may say, no, that's just them being them. They're just trying to be ornery, whatever, ignore them. Some delusions are harmful, some are not. Okay? And depending on how well it works in your life, if you can hang around other people that have that same delusion, okay, you're good. And delusions are different from illusions. So an illusion is seeing something and saying, oh, that looks like wait, it isn't. Usually you can see through the illusion and say, okay, that was a trick of the light or something. Like today at the grocery store, I saw this gal that looked a lot like Foxy. And I looked again and I said, that's not Foxy, but it looked a lot like her. Now, that was an illusion. And that comes up again. That'll come up again. Not that particular illusion, but another one. A psychotic person may have hallucinations. And hallucinations are like false sensations you have, seeing things, hearing things, smelling things. I assume touching, the sense of touch would be affected. Those kind of things. When the senses are lying to you, and you cannot even trust your senses, that's an hallucination. They may be caused by a drug interaction. They may be caused by stress, severe stress, and grief. A wife whose husband has passed away, who hears her husband speak to her the first couple months, she maybe hears him call her name. She goes, whoa, that's probably not a hallucination. Or it is, but it's probably not a psychotic behavior. It'll probably be a short-term thing. Like I said, we look at the time length in these things, and it will probably go away. So not all hallucinations mean psychotic behavior. So I hate when somebody jumps to a conclusion and says, oh, boom, stamp on you, you're psychotic. A person with psychosis is going to have a loose association of thoughts. They lose logic. They think, oh, this happened, so that must be, that must be what's happening. So it's hard to follow their logic sometimes. It's hard to get them to see logic, making therapy that much more difficult. Okay? They're unable to stay on a task, but this is not like an ADHD situation where the person has attention deficit. This is like full time, all with everything. They have trouble staying on task, and that's also a problem for work. Okay, and it's a problem for therapy. And they may have an emotional roller coaster, up and down all the time. So a person has to have a lot of these before we'll say, yes, that's a psychosis, okay? Want to talk about some of the organic ones that people might have? Senile dementia or Alzheimer's. Those can be part of a psychotic breakdown. Okay, the person may not recognize anyone anymore. They may call people by the wrong name. They may be living at a time when is not the present. They're living in the past. Some psychiatrists would say, yes, that's a psychotic break. Paresis, which is caused by untreated syphilis. I think Al Capone had that. I think that's probably what helped to kill him, was untreated syphilis and paresis. He started having psychotic symptoms towards the end of his life. Korsakoff's syndrome. Korsakoff syndrome is interesting. It's caused by alcoholism, a long-term alcohol abuse. I'm trying to avoid that myself, thank you. Korsakoffs can have a lot of symptoms, but one of the symptoms that I find the most interesting is you can give a person with Korsakoffs a glass of water, tell them it's gin, they will drink it and act like they are drunk, because I think, okay, this is my theory, is that the alcohol that's already in their cells mixes with the water, gets pulled into the bloodstream again, and that's the cause of that. Some people would say, yeah, but that's also part of the psychotic behavior, is believing that water is gin. So it's kind of hard to tell. Okay. There are some others that are very interesting. And, the book I was teaching from in the abnormal psychology course I taught, it basically said, here's schizophrenia. And I'm like, there are more types of psychoses than just schizophrenia. And I didn't really like the book, so I brought in other resources for my students, and I'm going to bring them in for you guys. Okay. I hit on some family issues there with if your entire family is made up of alcoholics, that's a good reason not to drink, because one, you know that there's a weakness there, a dependency possibly, or at least a tendency to dependency. Oh, it rhymes almost. Or an ability to stop. And so you want to definitely use avoidance for that particular issue. Yeah, that's good thinking. One of the things that people might have in some types of organic, and like I say, we think these are caused by or work with the body, okay? One of them is a facial processing disorder. They could confuse people, they can confuse animals, they can confuse objects, they confuse themselves with different people and objects. This slide, which I borrowed from somebody else, fair use, there's usually an important emotional connection or connotation involved. It's not just a logical issue. It's an emotional thing that goes along with this. Capgras syndrome, which I'm going to talk about a little bit more, but Capgras is when you swear that your family member has been replaced by a stranger that looks, we were just talking about doppelgangers. This person's not my wife. This person is somebody who's acting like my wife. I wonder what happened to my real wife. I need to go find her. And usually, though, it happens when, you don't really share a good, strong bond with that particular person. So it usually happens when couples already having problems. And all of a sudden, this person starts maybe a vitamin B deficiency. Okay. That has been known to cause some of these issues. So they have that deficiency, and then all of a sudden they're accusing someone of being a doppelganger. Okay? So this lady has Capgras. Okay? Another problem, they call it delusion of intermetamorphosis. A member of the family becomes a stranger, though the deluded person cannot describe any perceptual changes. I mean, okay, yeah, they look the same as my wife, but they're not. So it's very similar to Capgras, okay? I don't really know that there's a good reason to separate those out. The delusion of Frigoli. Okay, this is a good one. It was named after an actor, actually. What the person starts to do is they say, I keep running into the same person. They look like different people, but it's the same person. There's a bit of paranoia with this one. They will think that like maybe there's an actor following them around wearing different masks or Mission Impossible style, putting on makeup to look like other people. But we know it's Sue, okay? And she's following us around. And she keeps pretending to be other people, but I know it's Sue. Sue hates me. Okay. Yeah. Frigoli the actor was able to do quick change and masks and things like that, makeup. So that's why they named it after him. Nice. Nice to have something named after you like this. The delusion of subjective doubles says that another person has physically transformed into one's own self, which is odd, and I don't really exactly understand where they're going with that. But basically, I think it's trying to say that another person has come into yourself and is being you. Yeah. Wild delusions. Most delusions don't get that specific. Okay, most delusions are going to be something along the lines of the 5 main types. The grandiose type is where you feel that you are superior to everyone else, and everyone should listen to you because you are the smartest person in the room. And sometimes you are the smartest person in the room, okay, yes, but this person thinks that in any room they go into. They just are the be-all and end-all. And they might have a special relationship with God, okay, or deity of some sort, or a famous person. And that comes up again with the erotomanic type. The erotomanic type believes that a person of some high status is in love with them. I once tried to help a gal who, she thought Parker Stevenson. I don't know if a lot of you will know him. He used to play on the Hardy Boys Mysteries. I think he might have been a singer at one time. Anyway, she swore that Parker Stevenson was her secret husband, and that they had to keep it quiet because the media, would jump on the fact that he was married to a woman who was in an institution, and they just wanted to be sure to keep it quiet, and that someday he'd be able to admit that he was married to her. Well, when Parker married Kirstie Alley, I mentioned this to her and asked her about that, just to see what she said. And she said, well, that is a fake marriage that they are doing to help protect his reputation. He's really married to me and loves me, only me. Okay. So these delusions are very hard to shift on people. Another delusion might be the jealous type, where a person is always accusing their spouse of having affairs. Okay? Yes, exactly, Dawn. Thank you. Was Parker in Invasion of the Body Snatchers? Okay. I didn't know that. Interesting. The persecutory type of delusion is when a person thinks that they are being treated badly by everybody. Okay? So, or particular, maybe one particular person or thing. Maybe the CIA is after them. Okay? So they have, and paranoia runs into this too. There is a paranoid psychosis, and it's very hard to tell sometimes the difference between them. I think they're just trying to change the name to make it less, like I say, once the public knows a particular phrase or word, psychologists like to change the name of it so you don't, it throws everybody off. And I think persecutory type is more the old paranoid psychosis. The somatic type is interesting. It's a delusion that you have some sort of physical defect, disorder, or disease. Okay? They also can maybe think that they have bugs inside their skin that are trying to get out. That's one that happens. Or they have wires in their body or organs that shouldn't be there, and they need to have those organs taken out. They're always going to doctors to have surgeries because they believe that something's in there that shouldn't be. So, Oh, okay. Trelena was saying invasion of the body snatchers was reference to the delusion of somebody basically doubling a person. Oh, very good. Yes, exactly. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And Foxy is right. Jealous types do end up on daytime TV. And the spouse could be totally innocent of the thing, but, jealous types have that delusion, and it is not grounded in reality. They have no evidence. They just make the accusation and move from there. Okay. We talked about dementia a little bit. This can range from Alzheimer's to vascular disease. If you're having mini strokes or your brain is not getting enough oxygen, that can cause a form of dementia. Lewy body, which is a disease I'm not too familiar with. I'm not a doctor, just a shrink. so I won't talk about that too much. And frontotemporal, I'm not sure what that refers to, except maybe perhaps an injury to the frontal lobes, which can cause types of dementia, especially in older people where they have a lot of falls. Huntington's chorea could also be in there. Okay. Or you could have a mixture caused by several different types of issues. Okay. Parkinson's. Parkinson's doesn't usually cause a psychosis that I know of, but I would probably put that more in the Alzheimer's or just mixed dementia, that might be. It's not going to be helped by Parkinson's, but usually Parkinson's doesn't really affect them in that way as much. Okay. There is a test for psychopathology and psychopathy. It's called the hair test. The hair test is very interesting. They might have you look at some pictures of people and try to determine what the person is thinking. Is the person good or evil? Those kind of things. And depending on how you interpret the test, I am very low on the psychopathic, so I'm not a psychopath, folks, so you're okay here. You'd have to be all the way up on the right side. You have to be all the way up in the red to be psychopathic. So I'm down with the general population average, so that's pretty good. I don't know what the psychopathic lifestyle is, but that might be fun to try for a while. Okay. So, anyway, those are some of the more physically organic types of things. The delusions might not be always organic. They may be more functional. Most of them are going to be. But like I say, some of these can be caused by drugs like LSD, okay? I just heard of a study that said that long-term frequent use of marijuana could cause some issues. I'm waiting to hear more about that. I don't know how much that is per day you have to be taking to cause those issues, but could be. Okay. Dementia. Ted's grandma had that for a while, and mine had Alzheimer's. It is very sad. Nobody wants to have their end of life be marked by that. And especially the not recognizing your family members and such. And Foxy mentions a great-grandpa and great-grandma with Alzheimer's. Yeah. Okay. Wow. If you have that in your family, just have it checked out at some time in your later life to make sure that you're doing things right towards not getting away from that. I'm thinking we're going to probably find what causes that eventually, and there might be a cure for that at some time in the future. We hope within our lifetimes. Okay. Okay, I mentioned some of those delusional disorders. There are also some that come in there, and they will come in. They can kind of fit under some of these other categories, but I like to differentiate them. One is thought broadcasting, that other people know what you're thinking, and if you think something when other people are around, they're going to be able to read your mind, and it comes under the paranoia, but not quite. There's some differentiation there, in my mind anyway. And then there are some people who have a guilt delusion. They feel guilty about things that they had no cause in whatsoever. Okay? So they can be burdened with guilt that they don't deserve. And that can happen quite often with people. So like I say, I look at the way it impacts your life. And that delusion could impact your life pretty badly because you will have a very low self-esteem. And so we need to work on that. Okay. There are also some cultural delusions that are specific to specific cultures. And, Donna, people know what you're thinking. Yeah, because you just show it on your face. Yeah. And we know you so well. I think we're far enough in the show now. I can mention Koro. Koro, Koro, is an Eastern belief. Mostly in Japan, sometimes in Indonesia, and I don't know that many people in China have it, but it might have passed through their zeitgeist there. They might have heard about it, and it may have pushed on to there too. Koro is when you believe that someone has put a curse on you. And it's a very specific curse. It happens to men. The old witch will put a curse on you, and that will cause your penis to shrink. And even so much so that it pulls inside your body. Now, this might be illusion. I talked about having illusions, okay? Not like, David Copperfield's going to make your penis disappear. And neither is the witch. It could be that, on a cold day, you look down and you go, oh my God, I'm cursed. I've got Koro. Oh no. That is a very specific Eastern belief. Okay? Yeah. No, Joe. I don't think so. No, I don't think so. My gosh. Why did I open this up on a chat? Anyway, another belief that I ran into was amongst persons of Hispanic origin, specifically people in Mexico. They would have a belief that if someone was sick, you take an egg, regular egg, put it in a bowl, and stick it under the bed. And the egg will absorb the sickness, and the person will get better. And it works because, hey, their aunt got better after that. And, okay, it's hard to argue with the logic because they believe that it was we know her aunt got better. Yes, we believe that part, definitely. that the egg had anything to do with it, no. And they will not eat that egg or use it in any way. It gets thrown away because it's diseased now. But yeah, I had to just swallow my pride and say, okay, yeah, that's good. I'm glad she's better. Okay. And I do not argue with people's beliefs like that because it might be based partially in a religious belief. Something akin to it's kind of like a voodoo Santa Maria sort of deal, you know. It's very prevalent in that culture. So I don't argue. Okay. If they were working with me for therapy for that, we would work on that. But, you know, okay, yeah. Trey says a lot of people swear by onions taking the sickness out. Yeah, there you go. So, yeah. Some people take horse hormones to get rid of COVID. I mean, what's weird, what's a delusion, what's not, okay? So, you know, if enough people believe it, they think it makes it true. Yeah. Sometimes these delusional disorders are very hard to work with in therapy situations. Okay? Now we get to the fun part of schizophrenia. Schizophrenia is different than the delusions, but you can have delusions in schizophrenia. What I didn't like about the textbook they gave me at the college was that it just kind of lumped them all together. And, you know, oh, this is schizophrenia and delusions and no, people can have delusions without hallucinations. They can have them without the other symptoms of schizophrenia. Okay? With schizophrenia, there's a split between the thoughts and the emotions. So a person could be talking about a dead person and and they start laughing. And you're like, oh my God, that's not appropriate. Okay? That could be. They really are sad, but they're laughing. The emotions are not under their control anymore. I don't know if it's because of that or because of other factors, but there's withdrawal from all their contacts. If a person's starting to move into schizophrenia, they will pull themselves away from other people. And other people will pull away from them. Okay, it's not only the schizophrenic person, okay? All right. They will lose interest in activities that they normally would like or did like in the past, and they say, I don't want to do that, especially if it means going outdoors. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do that anymore. They'll have a breakdown of their personal habits. You know, a person with just delusions can be nice and clean and, you know, well-dressed and everything, but a person with schizophrenia usually will not be. If it's an active schizophrenia, they start, you know, they don't see any purpose in bathing or dressing up and going near people. And like I say, after a while, other people don't want to be near them because they're not bathing and they're not changing clothes. So it gets to be a problem both ways. Okay. And that at a time when they actually need those contacts, you know, they need to be with people. So they also might have delusions. Okay. They might have hallucinations. And they might have thought abnormalities. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about that in a little bit here. That's a thing. Let me see. Do I have a slide for that? Okay, I have a slide, but that's not the right slide. I don't want to show that one yet. Okay, I want to pull up something on my screen. You won't see it, but I'm going to kind of read a little bit about this. A hallucination is a waking. Okay, you have to be awake. Dreams don't count because dreams are always schizophrenic. But when you're awake and you see something, and it's your senses lying to you, and other people say, "I don't smell anything, I don't see anything, I don't hear anything." What are you talking about? That misinterpretation of something is what that hallucination is. Oh no, it's not a misinterpretation because that's really an illusion. If you hear something or see something, and then you figure it out, oh, I must have misinterpreted that. An example. I was working, helping my dad out. He worked for a security team, and they lost a lot of guys over Christmas holiday. And I said, "Yeah, I'll help. I'll walk around this plant at night. Okay, this manufacturing plant at night." And just walk around and, check buildings and make sure nothing's burning up or nobody's in there stealing anything or the possums haven't gotten inside the warehouse. I said, sure. As I'm walking through this one building, I open the door, go in, turn on my flashlight, walking. The door's closing behind me. It's got an automatic closure, and I hear, "Carl." Excuse me? There shouldn't be anybody else here. I don't have a radio on me, so it's not that. So I go open the door again. Go, okay. Nobody's out there. I thought it was the other guard playing a trick on me. Okay. And I let go of the door again, and I noticed there's a leaf. And you know how leaves have the little, like a maple leaf might have the little leaves, little micro leaves sticking out the branches of the leaf, I want to say. And this was curled up and facing down. And as it was pushed by the door, it went, and I was like, okay, that was an illusion. That was not a hallucination. That was just an illusion. But you could see how something like that, misinterpreted, can throw a person. Okay? But I was still sane. How about that? A lot of people wouldn't believe that, but it was true. Okay? The person who's having schizophrenia will also have a very disorganized pattern of speech, something like a word salad, reserve, ultra, show, girlfriend, reasonable. And you're like, excuse me, what? What did you say? So that kind of thing could happen. Or the person will just substitute certain words. There were comedians that would do that on purpose, just to be funny. But many times the person with schizophrenia will do that, and they don't even know they did it. And so you ask them what they said, and sometimes they'll tell you what they really wanted to say the second time, or they might come up with more word salad. At that point, it's like, okay, yeah, all right. They might have problems associating things properly. Like they might say, well, there's a new king in England, and the queen died, and maybe somebody's killing him off. We better watch. We better look out. Somebody will be after him next. That's not really logical. So this loose associations will cause a person problems. I think that's what happened with one of my people who had gone in. They'd seen a television show, and the television show said that you have no bones in your nose. And this worried this gal. She really was afraid because, she has no bones in her nose, and that just didn't seem right to her. Your nose is cartilage. And they had mentioned it on the show, but that she couldn't hear anymore. She heard that she had no bones. So she went to a doctor, and the doctor, I wish I could have read his name. He scribbled his name so that nobody could read it. But he wrote her a prescription for nasal bones, and she showed it to me. And I was like, oh my God, I should have taken a picture of it, because I had to hold in from laughing about this. But then again, I was sad about this because he was playing right into her delusion, her loose association of thought that, you know, she had no nasal bones. She needed some. So, yeah. Wow. Foxy's mentioning, yeah, a medication can have very vivid hallucinations. A friend dressed as a leprechaun sitting on a ceiling fan. That is interesting. Wow. I can't take codeine, because I did once, and I had spider webs all over my face. I couldn't get them off. It was a tactile hallucination, and I was like, never again am I ever taking anything with codeine. Thank you very much. So yeah. And yeah, as Trey mentioned, stress-induced, especially if you lose a loved one, or you have some near-death experience, or a huge trauma in your life of any sort, that could cause things. Donna mentions Benadryl. Yeah. You don't want to find out you're allergic to a medication by having hallucinations, but it can happen. And you would not be seen as schizophrenic. Okay? So don't worry. There's types of different schizophrenia. One is catatonic. And this is where the other symptoms might exist, but their most troubling symptom is catatonia. That is when you freeze. No, don't adjust your set. It's just me. This happened one day in the facility I worked at. A lady was talking, and she was just, jabbering away. Sometimes she would have word salad, so we couldn't understand everything she said, but she was just talking. And this time she was actually making some sense, and she was just talking about something that happened in another part of her day. And she froze and froze. And I thought, is she thinking? Okay. And I watched her, and she didn't move for several minutes. She didn't speak for several minutes. I was like, okay. I was still fairly new in this game, so I said, somebody go get Mark out of the other room, and he needs to observe this, first of all, because I want a witness to this before I write this in her notes. And second of all, I was like, hey, any ideas, bud? Because the lady is paused. And we tried calling her name. We tried making sounds behind her, like clapping loudly to, hopefully startle her out of it, which was probably not a great idea. Someone had the bright idea to put an ice cube on the back of her neck. It did nothing. Okay? And we just said, okay, just leave her be, and we'll go on, talking, working with everybody else. And all of a sudden, she came off a pause, and she was right in the middle of a sentence, and she finished the sentence that she was starting. Scary shit, people. Okay. I was like, okay, I'm ready for anything now, thank you. Yeah, that is catatonia. Sometimes these folks just will daydream, it seems like. They might be frozen in the same position. It's a scary thing to see. Okay. Yes. Pain pills are very strong, and especially the kind of pills they give you after surgery could cause some some issues with dreams. And medications could cause other problems to get worse, as Dawn points out. Yeah. Okay, and Trey's pointing out having a full conversation with somebody. Wow. Okay, yeah. I'm glad people are. We're having a group therapy session today. Yes, thank you. Another type of schizophrenia is a paranoid schizophrenia. Maybe this goes beyond those delusions of being persecuted, but these folks might have that. They might think they're being persecuted by somebody. They might have those ideas that, that television show that's on right now. That guy, he's talking about me. Okay. Could happen in a paranoid schizophrenic. They might have that feeling that people can read their minds. They might have a feeling they can read other people's minds. And that the other people don't like them very much. So that leads to more paranoia. A disorganized schizophrenia, you'll hear about that, or we used to call it hebrophrenia. That is when those emotions don't match the person's mood or thoughts. So, like I say, they might be talking about a person that passed away and they just start laughing or something. They might be talking about a birthday party they had one time when they were so happy and they're crying and they don't know why. It's very difficult for these people because other folks don't like it when your emotions don't match what is going on. This scares them a little bit. Okay? And the undifferentiated schizophrenia is just basically sometimes called simple schizophrenia. It's just not, it may not have catatonic, it may not have paranoid, it may not be a mood thing, but they're just having other issues, the hallucinations, delusions, loose association, but nothing else in the other categories. But simple schizophrenia just does not seem right to me. I prefer the undifferentiated because simple sounds like, oh yeah, they're fine. They just have simple schizophrenia. I do not like the way that is termed. So when people say that, I'm like, get away. Okay. Oh, we have some more chat here. Lithium. Okay, lithium is a very strong medication for people. In high enough dosages, could be poisonous. But it is prescribed for folks sometimes with some types of schizophrenia or mood disorders. But in the right dosage. And finding that right dosage, we'll talk about that next week, is very difficult. Yeah. Yes, thank you, Dawn, for pointing out. This is a very non-judgmental group, and I'm hoping that people who watch this in the future will not be judgmental towards anything that anybody says in this. We are talking about this because we're all trying to learn things and educate ourselves. I even learned something I didn't even know about Frigoli's syndrome until I started looking up for slides for you folks, and I'm like, oh, hey, that's pretty interesting. Okay. Yeah. Okay, I don't know if I would call ordering things in your sleep or having full conversations in your sleep. I don't think I would call that a psychotic symptom, because when a person's asleep, we're all kind of schizophrenic when we're asleep. Dreams are weird. It's when your dreams come into your waking life that we need to diagnose those. Yeah, I don't know how I'd give therapy to a person who was asleep. Oh, yes. Okay, yeah. Okay, I missed something about the shoes. Oh, you were judging a lady about her shoes? Okay. That's neither here nor there with this. Okay. Yeah. So, yes. We talked about the mood disorders. We've talked about personality disorders. We've talked about schizophrenia. We've talked about organic and delusional issues that might cause psychoses. When I started today, I started talking about ego-syntonic and ego-dystonic things. Sometimes people who are in an active psychotic phase will be like ego-syntonic. They'll be like, hey, this is all fine. This is me. Take me or leave me. I'm fine. Very few times during the active phase will the person say, there's something wrong with my behavior. I need help. Okay? It's usually when we see folks like this, they will be referred by a family member or a clergyman or the police because they scared someone. But really, very few people, I don't care what you've seen on TV and movies, very few people who are schizophrenic will harm other people. They're very few. There are some, yes. I've been tackled and thrown to the ground because somebody thought I was keeping something away from him. Okay? But very few. And they're usually involved with an institution of some sort. Because they've done these kind of things. And there's a reason why they're in the institution. But very few of them, okay? Most schizophrenics will harm themselves. The suicide rate among schizophrenic people, or at least the attempts, are about 30%. So it's a very disturbing thing to have happen. So people are really upset about it. And they have that ego-dystonic event where they say, this isn't right. I'm not happy with life. And we don't want them to do that if we can help it. But yeah, those kind of situations, sometimes they'll realize that something's wrong and they'll try to do something about it, but that's not the right thing. We'll talk about the right thing next week. But anyway, another thing I wanted to talk about here I've got is when you look at psychology, sometimes these words, they get way out of whack and you're like, okay, what's the difference between this and that? One of the things is what we might call a schizoaffective disorder. This is when the person has schizophrenia and a mood disorder at the same time. What we try to do in that case is look at what happened first. Like I say, it's all about time on these people. When you're doing diagnoses, you have to look at the time. What happened first? And what is the most impactful part of it? Like if a person has major depression, okay, and they have a few psychotic features with that, we would call that major depressive disorder with psychotic features, okay? If a person has bipolar, I don't know who made this slide, I would have put this next. bipolar disorder and psychotic features, then I would say that that's how we would term this. Bipolar disorder with psychotic features. Okay. If a person has the schizophrenia first, or it's the main part of the reason why we're seeing them, then we might call that schizoaffective disorder bipolar type, or schizoaffective disorder depressed type. Okay? So it makes little difference to most people how this goes. But for folks with the problem, it's going to determine how their therapy is going to work. Okay? I was talking about the timeline earlier. I want to pull this one up too, because I don't have any place else to show it. I wanted to show it here. If it's less than 1 month, we would call that a brief psychotic disorder. If it's not quite 6 months yet, we might diagnose the person as a schizophreniform disorder. Okay, they might have a schizophreniform disorder. Try saying that 3 times fast. And then if it lasts over 6 months, then they might be diagnosed as full-blown schizophrenia. And I hear you saying, Carl, what the hell does it matter? And to me, it wouldn't matter. They still have the same problems. We still have to look at the therapies that they're going to get. But the issue is, and I talked about this way back when we talked about testing, labels. Okay? You don't want to label a person schizophrenia right out the bat, because that is going to stick to their record like glue. You never, ever see that go away. What you'll see is schizophrenia, in remission. Okay? It's assumed that they will have schizophrenia again. They may never have the problem again. They may be taking medication for it, and they may be fine. They may have some, flare-ups, or it may be something that was caused by trauma, and the trauma went away, and boom, they never have the schizophrenic symptoms ever again. But they have schizophrenia in remission on their record somewhere, and that's a problem. It gets to be a problem because, someone comes up and they say, hey, I've got a problem with my back. My back is hurting all the time. They look down at the chart and they say schizophrenia in remission. Oh, yeah, sure. I'm sure you have a problem with your back. Okay, yeah. And they don't listen to what your problems are. Or you might have a problem with somebody. You're saying, look, I don't like the way you're treating me. And they're like, I know you got schizophrenia, buddy. So, it's your problem. No, this one's your problem. You're treating me badly. So, that loss of personhood, that loss of respect that sometimes comes with labels. So we don't want to just slap a label on somebody right away unless it's absolutely necessary. And that's why I go through all this crap. Yeah. Let's see. Is a chat? Okay. Yes, Donna, you've known people who say, this is me, deal with it, and it seems like they use that as an excuse not to behave. Absolutely. That person has the symptoms, and they have the ego syntonic. This is fine. This is fine. Yeah, I don't want to change for anybody. Yeah. They are very hard to deal with in treatment. They're going to be very difficult to give therapy for. Yeah, it's going to be difficult. Okay, folks, we've talked about some heavy topics tonight. I'm sorry. I thought, well, we'll build up to it. This like a thrill ride. And you come to the one part where, you're coming up to the top of the roller coaster and it's going to go down. And this was our downward trip. So I hope that has not triggered anybody. If you have a problem with, anything, there is help available. Don't be like the 30% of the schizophrenic people who attempt to do bad things to themselves, okay? Not your fault. Not their fault. We'll just say that. Okay. I'm sure I will think of some more fine things to tell you next week. But we're going to start on talking about therapies. Okay, we've done all these diagnoses, Carl. What are you going to do with them now? Well, we're going to talk about ways that we've tried to come up with helping people to overcome these issues in their life. And so that's going to be exciting because I love talking about therapy. And we'll talk about different types and the good and the bad that come from those therapies. Okay? So thank you all for coming. Appreciate it very much. And I hope you all have a really great week. Bye-bye.